The door to his private quarters stayed closed for 3 days before anyone knocked. Inside, a pair of shoes still sat by the bed, placed there the night before, waiting for morning. But morning never came the way anyone expected. Princess, and just revealed what really happened between her parents. And the reason Prince Philip didn't share a bedroom with the Queen isn't what the tabloids printed. It's stranger, darker. And when you hear the full truth about those separate doors, you'll never look at Buckingham Palace the same way again. Buckingham Palace has 775 rooms. But for over 70 years, the most talked about space wasn't the throne room or the ballroom. It was the door between the Queen and her husband. By the late 1970s, rumors had hardened into public belief. Prince Philip didn't sleep beside his wife. He had his own bedroom, his own hallway, his own life on the other side of a locked door. The tabloids called it proof of a cold marriage. Biographers whispered about affairs, and the palace said nothing, until Princess Anne opened her mouth. In a 2020 interview that barely made headlines at the time, and said something strange. When asked about her parents' separate bedrooms, she didn't defend it. She didn't deny it. She said, "You don't share a room with anyone if you want to stay married to them. That's just common sense." People laughed, then moved on. But here's what everyone missed. And wasn't making a joke about marriage. She was revealing a survival mechanism. Because what happened behind that closed door every night wasn't coldness. It wasn't rejection. It was something the palace had been hiding for 5 decades. And it started every morning at 7:30 a.m. with a pair of shoes. Think about that for a second. You've heard the rumors your whole life. Separate bedrooms. Distant marriage. But what if the opposite was true? What if those doors were the only reason they lasted at all? I want to know, did you grow up hearing the rumors about Philip and the Queen? Drop a comment right now. It takes 2 seconds, and it means everything to people who lived through that era. Because the real story doesn't start with a door. It starts with a boy running for his life. December 1922. A British warship called HMS Calypso cuts through the Aegean Sea. Below deck, an 18-month-old boy sleeps inside a fruit crate. His mother packed him in it. His father stood on the dock and watched the ship disappear. That boy was Prince Philip of Greece and Denmark. And he never had a home again. His family didn't fall apart slowly. It exploded. Philip's uncle, King Constantine of Greece, had just been overthrown. The military arrested Philip's father. A firing squad waited. Only a last-minute escape saved him. The family fled with nothing, not even a proper crib for the baby. Philip's mother, Princess Alice, was placed in a sanatorium, diagnosed with schizophrenia. She would spend most of Philip's childhood locked away in a Swiss clinic. He visited her once. Once. His father? He moved to the French Riviera with a mistress. Didn't write. Didn't call. Didn't look back. By age 10, Philip was bouncing between relatives' houses in England, Germany, and France. For different schools in 6 years. No permanent bedroom. No consistent adult who said, "You belong here." Here's what that does to a person. You already know how this story ends. Or do you? Most people see Prince Philip as the stiff, dutiful husband walking 2 steps behind the Queen. But that man was a performance. The real Philip was someone who learned early that home is a lie. People leave. Doors close. The only thing you can trust is movement. By 1947, when he married Elizabeth, he had lived in 7 countries. Lost a mother to mental illness. Lost a father to abandonment. Buried his sister in a plane crash. And never once stopped moving. But there was one place in Buckingham Palace he visited every single night. Alone. No guards. No cameras. Not even the Queen knew at first. And what he did there changed everything. The door to his private study stayed locked until midnight. Then it opened. For 43 years, palace staff knew the rule. After 11:45 p.m., no one walked the east corridor on the 2nd floor. Not because of security. Because Prince Philip walked it alone. Same path. Same pace. Every single night. What was he doing? The official answer: reading. Philip was famously a night owl. He stayed up late working on speeches, reading military history, writing letters. The Queen went to bed early. Separate bedrooms made practical sense. That's what the palace wanted you to believe. But in 2017, Princess Anne sat for a rare documentary interview. She was asked about her father's nightly walks. Her answer lasted 7 seconds. It took the palace 3 weeks to issue a correction. Here's what she said. He couldn't sleep in a room with anyone because of the noise. The palace later clarified she meant snoring. But people close to the family tell a different story. The noise wasn't snoring. It was Philip's legs. By 1982, the man who couldn't stand still had a body that wouldn't cooperate. Doctors diagnosed a condition affecting his circulation and joints. Some nights, the pain was so severe he couldn't lie flat. He walked the corridors to keep his legs from seizing. He stayed in a separate bedroom so the queen wouldn't wake up to him gasping. Think about that for a second. The most powerful woman in the world. And her husband spent half his nights alone in a chair, biting his lip, waiting for sunrise. If this story is hitting you the way it hit me when I first found it, hit subscribe. We find the stories the world forgets, and we make sure they're never forgotten. But here's the part and never told the cameras. The condition wasn't the secret. The secret was who insisted on the separate bedrooms in the first place. It wasn't Philip. It was the queen. And her reason will break everything you thought you knew. April 9th, 2021. Windsor Castle, 8:22 a.m. A footman approached the door of Prince Philip's private bedroom. He carried the morning tea, Darjeeling, no sugar, exactly 6.5 minutes steeped. Same as every day for 23 years. But this morning, the cup stayed on the tray. Philip didn't answer. Not unusual at first. The Duke often slept late after a bad night. The footman left the tea outside and walked away. 2 hours passed. At 10:45 a.m., a senior aide knocked again. Louder this time, then called through the wood, then pressed an ear against the panel. Silence. They opened the door at 11:03 a.m. Philip lay in the chair beside his bed, not in the bed itself. He had been dead for several hours. The cause? Old age, the official statement said. But those who knew say his heart simply stopped. A heart that had been running since 1922. Here's what the public never learned. The queen was not in the castle when Philip died. She was in her private apartment at the opposite end of the building. And she did not go to his room that morning. Not because she didn't care. Because he had made her promise. Most of us will never face what he faced. But we all know what it feels like to lose something that mattered. That's why this story refuses to leave you. According to multiple palace sources speaking anonymously over the years, Philip left specific instructions. When the time came, he did not want Elizabeth to see him like that. Not in the chair. Not in pain. Not as the man who couldn't stand still. He wanted her memory of him to be the young naval officer who walked toward her in 1947. Princess, and was the one who told her mother. She walked into the Queen's sitting room at 11:17 a.m., closed the door, and said 3 words that have never been publicly revealed. Until now. The 3 words princess and spoke to her mother were not, "He is gone." According to a 2022 biography by royal journalist Giles Brandreth, who interviewed in multiple times, she said something far stranger. Something that only makes sense if you understand the man who couldn't stand still, and walked into the room, sat beside the queen, and said, "He made it to the door." What does that mean? Here's the detail the palace buried. Philip had a ritual. Every night for over 40 years, he walked the east corridor. But not just to ease his pain. He walked toward the queen's bedroom door. He stopped exactly 3 feet from it. He stood there for exactly 2 minutes. Then he turned around and walked back to his chair. He never knocked, never entered, never asked to stay. But he went there every single night. The queen knew. Of course she knew. She listened for his footsteps. She timed them. She once told a close friend that she could tell how bad his pain was by how long he paused at her door. On good nights, he stayed longer. On bad nights, he barely stopped at all. Separate bedrooms weren't a rejection. They were a language. And Philip spoke it every night for 4 decades. When and said he made it to the door, she meant that in his final hours, confused, fading, alone in that chair, Philip's body had done what it always did. It tried to walk to her. One last time. And if you think this story was something, the next one we're covering will leave you completely speechless. A royal marriage so strange, so hidden, so unlike anything you've been told, that historians still argue about what really happened. I'm not exaggerating. Stay right here.